You know, I don't know why this happens, but it's been happening since the beginning of time. Welcome to the D. Louise book series. I'm Christina, K-R-S-T-I-N-A. This is where we read books and talk about books. No special effects, no theme music, none of that fancy schmancy stuff going on here. And we are reading Queen's Ransom, the third book in the Ursula series. And if you've seen my two previous podcasts, you know that I started this series because I read book 23 and there was a whole bunch of catching up with family in the beginning, and I didn't like it because I didn't know who any of the family was. And I stopped reading it at a couple chapters in and did my video, and it was halfway through my video that it occurred to me the reason I didn't like it, because I love these kind of books. Please go watch my Beatrice Small Sky O'Malley series. That is awesome. There's nobody like Sky. Claire Beecham Randall Fraser has nothing on Sky O'Malley. She's the best out there. There is nobody better than Sky with the backbone and goes through hell for the queen. But so I decided, I got on my high horse, and what did I do with them? They're over there someplace. I went and bought the first 8 of this series because they weren't available anyplace else, so I had to buy them. And for the first 3 books, and there's a lot of it's in Sky's books too, but not in your face like this is. And I had to look it up. So I don't understand why people have to fight over religion. If you want to worship who you want to worship, then worship. Everybody should be able to worship who they want to worship. And if you share a couple of places in your beliefs, one religion is completely off Saturday and another religion is completely off Sunday. So you could go to your place Saturday, you could go to your place Sunday, you could vary it up during the week, But according to the Google world here, according to most historical accounts, the first major religious war occurred to be the First Crusade, which began in 1095 and lasted to 1099, making the start of a series of wars between Christian and Muslims over control of holy sites in the Middle East. Dang, it's always the Christian. Pope Urban II launched the First Crusade with a sermon in 1095 calling for Christians to reclaim the Holy Land. And the focus has always been on Jerusalem for that particular thing. But there's been others. There's been many, many others. So this is the third book. And I think it's the end of it. I think it mentioned at the end of it. But this is pretty much in your face. And Queen, it's Mary Stuart against Queen Elizabeth. And this is the third book, and Ursula still is not living with Meg. Meg is still living with the other people. And she had asked the queen in last book if she could go be with her husband, and the queen said, yeah, this was like October, November, and she said you can go in May when the weather turns better. But then she says, I want you to do this thing first. She had a secret mission to find the traitors in this house. So she did all that. Matthew ended up showing up during that point. And at the end of the book, she chooses the queen over Matthew. So then in this book, the Queen has another mission for Ursula. And it's quite layered, and you're just hating on a couple. I found myself hating on a couple of people by the end of the book, major big time. What did I do with it? Here it is. I have been, because it's been useful, because the cast has been large. So there's more than 25 people in this cast, but this is my list of 25. And soon I will just keep track of the extras. But we have this guy. We have some visitors from the previous books. So Sir William is becoming a regular character with the Queen. And the mentioning of Aunt Tabitha and Uncle Herbert has been frequent. They're not in it, but they're mentioned. And her brother-in-law, Ambrose Blanchard, is mentioned. And then we have Richard Sackville, who's the treasurer. And, no, William Paulette is the treasurer, and Richard Sackville is the under-treasurer. And we have Fran, or Dale. Her name is Fran, but for whatever reason, Ursula calls her Dale. And then we have Dale's husband, Broccoli. And they were married between book 1 and 2. We didn't see it was off stage. And then we have all these other people that come in. We have a couple of bad guys that make a reoccurrence in this book, who were in previous books, who escaped in previous books. So, the Queen wants... Alright, so, Ursula's father-in-law, the first father-in-law, Blanchard, needs to go to France to get his niece, or, well, not a direct niece, but a distant niece. He happens to be the only relative left. You know? So she's a niece, but a distant niece. Because he's gonna bring her back to marry his son. So, but it's explained in the book that this is the shortest route. This way. But Blanchard chooses to go around. For what he has his reasons. But he wants, instead of going in a straight line, he's going to go around the block a few times. And the Queen wants Ursula to deliver a letter to Catherine over in France. And so Ursula is going to go with her father-in-law on this trip around the block, even though she knows this trip is better and faster. So instead of doing a short trip this way, they're going to do a week or so long trip the other way so they can get more in trouble. And unknowns to Ursula, her father-in-law's got his own personal agenda. And also, Cecil has got his own personal agenda. Now, Cecil is supposed to be someone that Ursula trusts. He's the Queen's secretary. He's her right hand, one of her right-hand people besides Dudley. And in Sky O'Malley's book, Dudley is a really bad guy. And he's bad here, but in here the Queen doesn't, she's like iffy on it. In Sky's books, he's massively bad and the Queen doesn't care. So Cecil has got he's got this little agenda that they want to do, or supposedly want to do. They tell Ursula, I need you to give this to the Queen over in France. And they're having her do this, but they have an ulterior motive for having her do this. And that ulterior motive, of course, is Matthew, because that's where he is, over in France. So, Ursula takes this long-winded trip, and a whole bunch of shit happens on this long-winded trip. And then her father-in-law gets ill, and she believes him to be ill when he's just faking it to delay their departure to give supposedly Matthew time to show up. Also, we finally meet his niece, or extended niece, or whatever you want to call her. And she wants to be a nun, and her sole purpose in life is the nunnery. However, she has also a confidant who is influencing her decisions. And you don't find out until towards the end of the book, spoiler alert, that Dr. Wilkins, Ignatius Wilkins, is influencing her, and she does some very evil things for her God, because she believes that the Protestants are bad, or the Catholics are bad, whichever one. And she's like this, she's like so focused. And by the end of the book, I'm hating this chick major big time. Hating her huge big time. And Wilkins, Ursula sets him up. We're not exactly sure if he meets his just desserts or not. And I'm also pissed off that Ursula had to sacrifice all of her husband had a secret treasure. And she sacrifices her secret treasure for Dale because Helene and them set Dale up. It was totally fake. So Ursula lost quite a bit in this. But we also get the stuff with Matthew. And we know this is going to change. So apparently I've lost book 5. I have to go on a treasure hunt later. I found 4. I found 6. Found 7. Got 8. But apparently 5 has been misplaced someplace. But anyways, I wanted to point out there's a little side story in here that I didn't know it was important, and I didn't know it's repeated twice in the book. The second time a little more detail. But it was possible the same night in early March that a hostelry in Marseilles in the south of France, an intrepid and resolute, but by most people's standards slightly crazy merchant adventurer named Anthony Jenkinson, was disturbed in the night by would-be assassins. He and his 2 men with him woke up in time, and it was the same with assassins who lost their lives. On a table by the bed, he left sufficient money to pay the innkeeper's bill, and then he and his companions fled stealthily from the inn by climbing outside the window, down the creepier that hung to the walls. They also left 2 unknown corpses of Mediterranean appearance in the bed for the innkeeper to find in the morning. The meeting that had put the assassins on Master Jenkinson's track must have been held much earlier, perhaps late the previous year. We never knew for sure, nor did we know exactly where it was held, but it probably took place in Istanbul. Quite a number of men who have been present, some of the Venetian and some Turkish. I can visualize them seated around a table in a well-appointed room with windows designed to protect the occupants from the sun rather than let it in. But this must have been winter, and the weather, have been quite cold. If any of the windows gave a view of the Boris, the gleam of the water could have been steely rather than bright. I've never seen the Boris, but my cousin's tutor was a traveled man and a rather good at geography. He had been to Istanbul and described it. And you're like, why is this being included? Why is this being included? And it isn't until like the end of the book that it clicks. But I hadn't looked at the. Is it Eddie? Oh. So we end this book on she's Ursula. It's a year, almost a year later, that the last chapter takes place from the rest of the book. Come here. Come here. You came up here. You can say hi. We've got other books to read. So, I'm starting to get to know the players. I'm starting to get to know who the regular characters are. I'm starting to be able to follow the story. And, I don't know about you, but I guess we're ready to move on to book 4. If you could please hit the like and subscribe, I'd appreciate it. Also, don't forget Star Trek Next Generation recaps on Friday. If then episodes on Friday, we got a little carried away with Valentine's Day in February, and we're gonna get away with a little St. Patrick's Day in March. And she's making love to my books. Would you stop? Come here, come here. I'll get your brush in a minute. Where was I? I forgot. Oh, don't forget Romantic Time Book Review Mondays, Flashback Mondays, where we talk about all the books in this magazine. And my pal here, she's done a couple videos. Some have done well, some have flopped. So check those out too. There was one more thing, but I can't remember. Stop! Come here. Come on. Have a good day.